Hi, this is John Ferrian, and I'm here with Emilie and Scott, and we're here with you guys to talk about the Professional Career Showcase. Again, John Ferrian here from Sammamish, Washington. Recently laid off from Microsoft and in a career journey myself is my status where I'm at. Emilie, do a quick introduction for yourself and give us an update.
Yeah, I am Emilie Hoivik. I am over in Minnesota where it is currently warm, not cold. So I'm very thankful for that. Previously with Microsoft, it's actually where I know both of these gentlemen. And I'm actually going to key it over to our guest, Scott.
Hey,
Scott, tell everybody hi.
everybody. Hey, John and Emily. Thank you for having me on. Honored to be your first guest here on the podcast. I'm in sunny Woodinville, Washington. It's a beautiful day here. And yeah, you've both said we previously worked together at Microsoft.
That's awesome. Scott, you and I are virtually neighbors. Sammamish and Woodinville are just up the road from each other, and there's
Wow,
a
very
lot
close.
a lot of great places in between. Microsoft, for example. So very good, very good. So yeah, we're going to be here talking a little bit about the career journey. We're going to talk about a transition journey of kind of going from one role to another, looking for careers and jobs. One thing that I know myself and Emilie both recognize in Scott is that he's kind of, from our point of view at least, crushing it on LinkedIn. And so he's been out there doing some great things, very engaged. And so we're here to kind of hear a little bit about what he's been doing and how he's been leveraging it, and maybe some of the success he's had. And then finally, at the end, we'll do a quick wrap up with the consulting firm that Scott you've started that we'll just touch on at the end and let everybody know in case they want to reach out to you. So,
Sounds
Emilie, I
good.
think it's time to let everybody know what our mission and our vision is for this podcast. This might be the first time that somebody has run into us and what we're doing. And so, why don't you just give us a shout out for what our mission is for this podcast?
Absolutely. And we will make sure we're going to go over this each time that we're doing this together. So,
Yep.
to empower. So this is our mission. Okay, to empower and enlighten professionals across the globe by sharing our journey of career navigation, fostering growth, and embracing human-centered authenticity. We commit to delivering insightful content that resonates with our core values of faith, family, and community. All
Very
right,
good.
vision, take it.
All right. Again, verbatim, the way we've documented to make sure we're staying consistent is our vision is to be an authentic voice in the professional podcasting space, recognized for inspiring individuals to achieve personal and career growth while staying true to their values. We envision creating vibrant community where listeners can find guidance, support, and a sense of belonging as they pursue their aspirations. And I think, when I think about the vision that I've just read and what we're accomplishing today, it really resonates with me because I literally think of the idea of like finding support and guidance and grace. Like, I mean, in one way or another, the three of us are all in the same journey, right? We've gone in our career at some point in time recently, for most of us has been some kind of a career transition. And so, Scott, I know one of the things that we're going to talk about is kind of the idea of your transition and what you've been going and kind of your own career journey. And so, maybe let's start with kind of your background, your journey, where you've been, and then we'll jump in later to your transition time that you've been in recently.
Yeah, sounds good. So firstly, I love what you both said there about kind of human connection and community, because one of the things that I think platforms like this really do allow, and I'll talk a little bit about LinkedIn more broadly later, is that ability to build community, find your people, and kind of make connections that otherwise you might not make. So again, thank you for having me here. In terms of my background, so I'm a 25-year commercial and marketing veteran. I know I don't look that old, but I am. And I have been incredibly lucky in my career to be able to work with some of the world's best companies and to be able to work in some amazing places. So most people can tell by my accent straight away that I'm not originally from the United States, which is where I reside now. I'm from the north of England originally. And I started my career out in the UK working for Dixon's Retail, now Currys. So kind of cut my teeth in the cut and thrust of the retail world, which I know both of you are also very familiar with retail. And then I worked for T-Mobile, or T-Mobile, as we Brits call it, for a good few years over in the United Kingdom. And then I got kind of my break to work at Microsoft on the Xbox business initially, where I led a team responsible for marketing in the EMEA region, so all across Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and did some amazing travel there. And then Microsoft is what brought me to the US as well, which is now 9 years ago. And I've done a variety of different kind of marketing and commercial leadership roles on different businesses at Microsoft. And then for my last 2 years at Microsoft, I was lucky enough to be able to make a kind of career pivot and follow a really an area that I'm really passionate about. And that is kind of helping other people to be the best that they can be. So an opportunity came up to go and lead the learning and development team that was responsible for all the professional development for marketers at the company around the world. So my last couple of years at Microsoft were actually some of the most fulfilling work that I've done in my career. And I really had an opportunity to take all of my knowledge that I've accumulated in the commercial and marketing space and kind of pair that with what I'm really passionate about and help empower other people in their own journeys. So that's just a little bit about my personal career journey.
I love it. And, during that time that you're describing as the best time of your career, I think that's when both myself and Emilie had a chance to interact with you, engage with you a little bit and get to know you. And, just speaking for myself and Emilie, I'll let you maybe chime in here in a second is, I struck up a very strong relationship with you, Scott, right away, and you were eager to support and mentor me. And so, even in hindsight, 4 years ago almost, it was probably when we first met. Put the rubber where the meets the road, and put your money where your mouth is you're a man of your word, because that's exactly what I experienced and as a coworker of yours, eager to help out. And Emilie, how about your experience with Scott and the time that you had with him? Did you have any interactions with him that you can speak to?
Yeah, I did actually. So when you went into learning and development, I had connected with Kara. She said, you got to connect with Scott because I think that there's a lot you can take back. And I did. And actually that brought in my own connections just by the recommendations that you had to connect with others within that same environment. And I still actually connect with a couple different people today. So the power of networking is real. Also, I will say, LinkedIn's a great way, but also making sure you're using the power of your network inside of your companies. And years ago, I think I mentioned it last time too, I was reaching out to people that were 15 years ago. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was literally a networking conversation that triggered the whole decision to start this podcast with Emilie and I too. And so we're really proud of what networking has done for both of us in our careers. And Scott, one of the inevitable things that I know I've experienced in my career, and I know you did too, was the inevitable transitions of large companies, right? Like whether it be a merger, a layoff, all those type of things. And, why don't you talk to us a little bit about that transition that you've gone through over, I think it's the last year you've been involved in a transition, right?
Yeah, that's right. And, I love the way you position it as a transition. But allow me to be a little blunter, if I may, because I know there's a lot of people out there right now that are experiencing this kind of transition. And the fact is, it can be painful for a lot of reasons, right? The bottom line is we got laid off, and I think it's okay to kind of put it in those terms. And I think that when you think about, any big company, especially in today's economy and especially with the technological advancements that happen at the moment, to your point, this is an inevitability of choosing to have a career in knowledge work in a big company in the 21st century. So the first thing to say is, you are not alone. There are literally tens or hundreds of thousands of people that have gone through something similar, particularly in the last couple of years. So for me personally, my transition began back in May of last year, 2023, when, my team was downsized and they reorganized the team into a different part of the business. And, learning and development, just like any other area, is not kind of immune from cost savings, efficiencies, etc. So that I really tried to look at that from a point of view of opportunity. I am incredibly privileged. I'd been at Microsoft for quite some time. So I was in a position where I could come out and not immediately have to seek another job from a financial perspective. So I feel incredibly lucky to have had the opportunity to kind of step back and take a breather. I know that is certainly not the case for many people, and that's not lost on me. So my own journey really began with stepping out and stepping back and saying, hey, I'm going to take a bit of time off here intentionally. So
Yeah.
for the first 6 months, I had intentionally said, I'm going to take a break. I had kind of a sabbatical coming to me anyway from the company. So it felt like a good point in time to do some of those things I've always wanted to do. So, for example, for the last 9 months, I've been learning how to fly a plane, and I am quite close now. I'm not quite there, but I'm quite close to getting my private pilot's license. So that's a big achievement that I've been putting off for quite a long time. And again, not lost on me how privileged I am to be able to do that. But I also had some stuff going on with my family. My grandmother sadly passed away last year, and that coincided with me taking a break. So again, I'm not a religious person, but I certainly believe things happen for a reason. And having that time when I really needed it to be able to spend with family, visit my family back in the UK, and be able to go backwards and forwards without having to think too much about a job was just really fortuitous for me. And then kind of the third strand of what I'd done with kind of the time that I've had was really to reflect on where I am in my life and my career. I'm in my mid-40s now, and it's not often in your kind of life that you get a chance to kind of press pause in the middle when you're a kind of mature professional and figure out, hey, do I want to keep going in that same direction? Do I want to take a fork in the road here? Do I want to do something completely left field? So I spent some time really getting clear and thinking about what I want to do next. And then I kind of, I dove into a job search. And probably for about the last 5 or 6 months, I've been, kind of balancing doing some coaching and consulting work with, applying for jobs like I know a lot of people are out there doing right now. And I will be really honest, the market is tough. That is an absolute fact. I have been lucky enough, unlucky enough to have been in this position and be on both sides of the fence of a layoff, the manager having to lay people off as well as the person being laid off a few times in my career. And I can honestly say that I've never seen a market as competitive and as tough as it is right now. But I genuinely believe that the right thing will happen for everybody at the right time. And keeping a positive approach, a positive mental attitude as you kind of go through the transition, get the inevitable rejections is super, super important.
No, I agree completely. And, my experience over my career has been there's been several layoffs too in my career. And I would tell you that, knowledge, experience, age, maturity, financial status as you go through your career, each time you go through it is different, right? And I'm in a position too where like I'm laid off right now, but the nice part is you don't have to be in a panic, right? Whether it be through severance or savings or whatever you've done to set yourself up. And it changes the dynamic. It does allow you to kind of think through and choose what you want to do next. And so, Emilie, any additional thoughts on what Scott has said so far? Anything you want to chime in on?
Yeah, I love the last one that you talked about, Scott, and just kind of this like reflection and questioning of, okay, like what do I want to do next? Like, what is my next chapter? I have definitely felt that. I have lots of discussions with my husband actually about what can I do next? I've learned I have to rein it in a little bit because I tend to want to go real broad and really think just very wildly different. I did receive some great advice recently too that I'll share with everybody. And it was really around kind of that mid-career. And when you find yourself in this place of reflection and also of like what's next, to really take the skills that you've gained and learned over the years and find a way to maximize those skills versus like going head first and diving in to brand new things. And so that helped me zone in a little bit. But maybe Scott, you could share a little about how you've kind of done that in your own reflection.
Yeah, and I can kind of link that to talking a little bit about LinkedIn as a tool, because I know that's something that we want to do here today. But what you said there about skills and strengths really is the way that I think about it. I think is really important because I am a big believer in focusing on what you're good at and what you're passionate at. Now, that doesn't mean that if you have weak areas, you shouldn't look to kind of improve on them. But I think the accepted wisdom is that, we all have natural talents and natural skills that we are good at. And you can get more bang for your buck by really focusing on developing those strengths and it's more fulfilling as a human being when you do that as well. So I think that was a really good point. I do want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn and kind of my journey there. You were very kind earlier on to say that I was kind of killing it on there. I don't know about that, but what I do know is that I had been active on LinkedIn even before I started through my career transition journey. And I guess my first piece of advice to anybody that's watching this that perhaps isn't in a career transition at the moment is don't wait until you are. Because I do see and talk to a lot of people who kind of, they set a profile up 10 years ago or whatever, and then they kind of forgot about it. They might scroll through it in the background and not interact, lurk around. And then when something happens, as we talked about, which can be inevitable, they're kind of scrambling to go, is my profile up to date? Are my skills up to date? Am I interacting with the right people? Is my network built up on there? You don't have to be like an Uber influencer on there. You don't have to be somebody that's kind of, posting out every day or commenting on every single thing you read. And I think we can all probably, appreciate the not too good side of LinkedIn as well, because there is a lot of stuff on there that you kind of like roll your eyes at, when you want a genuine kind of connection. But I will say that the platform is incredibly useful. And the first tip is certainly, don't wait until you need to use it to find a job to build a following and to keep your network warm and to make sure that you've got an up-to-date profile, because that's something that I think will be super useful to hit the ground running when you do find yourself in that position. You mentioned, I think, Emilie, earlier that LinkedIn Learning and the learning resources on LinkedIn as a platform are great. And I will say, as a learning and development professional and somebody who's taken advantage of that myself, and had the opportunity to work with some of the LinkedIn Learning team in my previous role at Microsoft, I would say absolutely. One of the key benefits of LinkedIn as a platform is the learning and development opportunities that are afforded for virtually anything you can think about. And the good thing is most of them are very, very consumable, bite-sized short video formats. AI is getting more and more involved in the way that learning and development is put together, which, in some ways is a good thing. In some ways is still being worked on, etc. But I would say that the learning opportunities afforded on LinkedIn, sometimes overlooked, but I would suggest that people check that out. It's very easy to search through and find things that are going to be suitable for you, your personal career situation, etc. And then the third one that I would say is really about the networking piece, which, we all build these networks up on social media, whether that be Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, which is a form of social media. It's just, focused on business professionals. And it's kind of this idea, and one of you mentioned it earlier, that you can tap into somebody that you put in your network 10, 15 years ago and have a conversation much more easily than you could in the days where you were kind of flipping through a Rolodex or trying to find somebody's contact details that you once met, etc. Now, it is a good idea, in my opinion, to keep relationships warm and make sure that you are checking in with people, even briefly, relatively frequently. But LinkedIn does afford you to be able to kind of reach out and talk to those folks that potentially you haven't chatted to in a while. And I can tell you, through my transition journey, one of the things that I did on LinkedIn was kind of put an open invite out there to say to people, hey, let's catch up. And I cannot tell you the number of people that I had such amazing reconnection conversations with because of that post. I probably had 30, 40 conversations with people that I might have worked with 20 years ago. And it was just great to catch up. So those would be the three things. The last thing I would just say on LinkedIn is, of course, job board, right? Any job that's worth its salt these days is posted on LinkedIn. It's a useful tool, but don't only rely on LinkedIn for job boards.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's fantastic. And Scott, I think as we kind of think about wrapping up the show here, I think the thing that we need to talk about next is your consulting business that you started. It's correct me if I'm wrong, is it Northern English Associates, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, I am from the north of England, so
there you go.
Despite supposedly being a marketing expert, I decided to call my business Northern English Associates, given that I'm based in the Pacific Northwest of the US. But my website makes it clear where I'm based and who my audience is, which is a global audience. So yeah, my kind of consulting venture is it's really focused on what I see as my unique selling proposition, which is somebody who has spent 25 years of his career developing skills in business and in the commercial side of business and in marketing in particular, and who has made this pivot to learning and development. And I want to use that 25 years of knowledge and experience to help other marketing and business professionals to get the skills that are going to be required as we go through this enormous transition to AI, which is happening at the moment. And I really believe, and I know lots has been written about this, I certainly believe that this is going to be the biggest change to work, especially to kind of knowledge work, that we've seen since the Industrial Revolution. And we're very much just at the cutting edge of that at the moment. But over the next 5 years or so, I think work is going to be unrecognizable. And I think that the companies and the individuals and the teams that are investing in building the right capabilities and skills for that transition and beyond are going to be the ones that succeed in the future. And particularly a passion point of mine is the area of human skills, what used to be called soft skills, right? Because I think as AI takes on more and more of the technical skills, the traditional hard skills, which are related to a particular discipline, I think it's going to become ever more important for people to develop and hone those human skills that are uniquely human, at least for the time being. And that'll come into play both interacting with AI, and much has been written about how having key leadership and management skills is core to being able to work with AI, because you interact with it in a way that is very different to previous computer interfaces. It's very much more like interacting with a direct report or somebody on your team.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of need for human skills, both to interact with AI and, of course, to interact with other humans who are all going to be going through this transition at the same time. So what I'm trying to do with the consultancy work and the coaching work that I'm doing is really provide solutions for individuals and teams as they're going through that transition to make sure that they've got the capabilities and skills that they need for the future.
That's awesome. And Scott, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, do you want to just verbally, and then we'll put it in the comments section of the show too, but like, the website, if you want to share your website or any other contact information you want to share, feel free.
Absolutely. The website is northernenglish.com. Very easy to remember. And LinkedIn is probably the best way to get a hold of me. I'm very open on there, and you can send me a message, get in touch with me that way.
Perfect. So Emilie, we're wrapping everything up here. Do you have any final thoughts or any final things you want to comment on with the discussion we had with Scott today?
First of all, I want to say thank you for your first guest. So this is huge,
Awesome.
Huge for us. And we really enjoyed what you had to say. And I can guarantee that the rest of the audience did too. I think a lot of the takeaways that you have, they're real. And your experience, the way that you were able to really just articulate what it was like to go through, what the last 25 years and what you've learned, and now really truly taking that kind of the advice that I had received as well and embracing it and teaching others. I really do think that we all have this little piece of us that wants to be able to continue either a tradition or just the learnings and the teachings that we have for others. And so I would just say, for all of you, if there's one thing you could do today and, just teach someone something, I learned not that long ago to always bring someone along with you. If you're doing something alone, it's probably not the right thing to do. And I've not lost that, because it is extremely important. And the more people we do bring along to learn and really just develop, it moves mountains. It's very, very important. So thank you, Scott. I do appreciate you joining.
You
Very
are
good.
welcome. And you all are building something here that really fulfills what you've just talked about there, Emilie. So you should be really proud of the work that you're doing here. And I am honored to have been your first guest. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I think this is the perfect time to really remind folks who are watching too, is the ways you guys can embrace this, what we're trying to accomplish, and to build your own network, to build and to share all of our networks, as well as to, to consider watching the video and then reposting it. We call it a share in other social media platforms. Here it's a repost. But if you repost this, you'll be amazed to see the impact it'll have to your own network. Like just the interactions I've had in the last week with Emilie back and forth, with Scott, the posts that we had, some of the best engagement that I have seen in my LinkedIn profile in almost forever, literally, has been just through what we've done in a very short period of time. And I know that every time that, we have a guest on, all of our networks now we're crossing paths. And I would just ask also that everybody consider, do you have something as you're watching this that you feel passionate about that you're willing to share in a future episode as well? And so with that, Scott, any final words before we wrap everything up?
Just thank you for the work that you're doing here. As I said, I know that career transitions can be difficult and you experience highs and lows almost on a daily basis. And the fact that you both are channeling your energy into something so positive that can help other people that are going through this, really, really, really good work. So thank you.
All right. Well, bye, everybody. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in a few weeks again when we have another guest. Thanks.
See ya.